All right.
Beauty. All right. Welcome to Sensitive Empowered with Alissa and Matt. It's been a month since we've recorded, or 2 months. We didn't record in December. So
Correct. Yeah. Lots has happened since then. It's crazy how things change in the span of a couple of months. So I'm so excited to be chatting with you again.
me too.
Definitely really cherish this time that we get to spend together.
Yeah, ditto. Ditto. Me too. Yeah, so happy New Year, everybody. We're in a new year. We're almost out of January now, so that's pretty crazy. Yeah, we don't have a topic for today. We're gonna just riff, and Alyssa and I, we thought about talking about taking up space, and I just said, I don't feel like I'm taking up space right now. I'm not embodying that energy. I feel like I'm kind of like retreating right now, and I'm just like in an incubation period of just getting ready to start to take up more space. And so I just feel like being a little bit less planful in these is kind of the direction we're going to be taking it. So. And speaking of being less planful and more just in the moment, there's a really beautiful concept I wanted to introduce to the audience today, which is authentic relating. It's something that I'm quite versed in. I've taught it. You've actually taken one of my courses where I teach it, so you're quite versed in it as well. So just for people who don't understand what authentic relating is, if you look at what it means to be authentic, it means to be real, to be genuine, to follow your embodied desires, and to just really take that and run with it. And relating means to bring that energy into relationships. So here we are, and we're in a connection, and we can really practice slowing down. And instead of telling story, right, we'll still share stories today because that's what we're doing here, but we getting into an embodied place and really slowing down and connecting with what wants to be shared. And I think that's when we talked yesterday on our WhatsApp chat, that's what I was feeling. I'm like, I don't know if I want to talk about something scripted. I think I just want to riff. You call it riffing, I call it authentic relating. It's really where we're just coming into connection, and we're just talking about what's alive, what wants to be said here today, right? And I think you and I think that's how we create anyway. We're very creative people, and we create from this place of authenticity and momentary authenticity, and that's where our creations come from. So anyway, I just wanted to introduce the audience to what that concept is, and then we can kind of show them what it might look like. But how are you doing? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
How's things going for you?
Yeah. I mean, first, I just love that. And like, as soon as you suggested that, I was just like, like I just felt calm. Like sometimes that's just like what we need is just to like take off all the layers and all the, I don't know, the prescriptive stuff, and like let's just like drop in and be present and share what's going on. I definitely create best from that place. And yeah, like how I am today. I mean, like honestly, today's been pretty tough for me, and I've been in like I really related to what you were saying with the feeling of like being in an incubation period. And like for me lately, like the vision of like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly is just like feeling like where I'm at right now. I feel like I'm in the messy middle of a lot of things in my life, and it's just like extremely uncomfortable, ungrounding, and it's bringing up a lot. And so today in particular, like just kind of started off on a rough note, and it's interesting how my old patterns kind of get shifted up and kicked up. So like just for some backstory, it's like my daughter is 8 months old, and like last night she woke up 4 times, like literally every 2 hours, 10 p.m., 12:30, like whatever. Like I was just like up all night, and today is my work day, and I'm like such a driven person. Like I really cherish my work. I really like hold on to that identity of being a business owner. And so I stepped into my day kind of in that victim mode, like, oh, of course, the one day I get to work and I slept like crap. And it just takes a toll on a person, like at a very physical and mental level when you don't get the sleep that you need. But also just, yeah, that old pattern for me, which is like, we've actually talked about this before, is like the victim mentality. And it's like, oh, like I forgot I have that in me sometimes. And not to like discount my feelings, like it's totally valid, but just saw myself going there. And so it's just kind of been a bit of an off day, honestly. And I have a lot that I'm working on and a lot that I want to accomplish. And so it can be very triggering when there's so much you want to do, but you don't have the mental clarity for it. You might not have the energy for it. And so I'm in that messy middle of like kind of knowing where I want to go, but it's not totally clear and I don't have all the tools. And it's just like, like frustrated and stuck. And just like I told my mom the other day, I'm like, oh my God, I just want to like go on an island for like a week and just like talk to nobody and just do nothing. Just like leave me alone. So that's me. That's where I'm at right now.
Mm. Man, I feel your vibe so much, and I'm in that same boat. But I want to affirm you because I feel like you have a very successful business. You're a
Mm.
brand new mother. Got a lot on your plate, like a lot. So yeah, I think it's I think what we're going to share today, I think maybe there's some medicine I have for you and medicine you have for me, and it's going to be beautiful. And that means there's medicine for the audience as well, because
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like our part of some of the stuff we struggle with is we're hard on ourselves. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and we come from that perfectionistic kind of productivity equals worth mentality, which we've talked about in previous episodes. So um yeah, I'm feeling very similar to you. And it's interesting, I have not a creative bone in my body right now. It's really interesting, and my inspiration to create is really low. And for people who know me and have been following my work for a period of time, they know that that's how I operate. I operate not with consistency. I
Mm.
operate from a place of alignment. That's how I create. So usually my creations come in waves. So I go into incubation periods and I heal, I suffer, I grow, I do all the things I need to do, and then I come out and I teach. And that's where my content comes. So usually my content comes in waves. Lots of content will come at you when I'm in that energy. So I always say, whenever I'm in this really creative energy, I'm doing well. And whenever I'm in a place of, not creating, it doesn't mean I'm not necessarily doing well. It just means that I'm not wanting to be front facing, and I'm moving through some stuff to get clear about what it is that I have to teach next.
Mhm.
And maybe this is a good time to talk about like Dharma. I think we've brought that up a couple times
Yeah.
in our episodes, and maybe people don't understand what it is, but it's Dharma is basically the soul path that you're walking, the path that we walk to our destiny, whatever that looks like. So we're all on this path. Some people believe our destiny is predetermined. Some people believe we create it as we go. Whatever the belief is, the Dharma is this path that our soul has chosen to come in, incarnate into this life, and we're going to walk this path. So a good example of people like dharmic paths could be like a healer or a teacher, or what are some other ones that you can think of as far as dharmic paths?
Yeah, like a counselor, like I feel like a lot of times people go through something specific in order to then teach others on that topic.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So, when I say that, I talk, and it's taken me a long time to align to what my soul purpose is. That's another way to say it. Soul purpose, Dharma. I like the word Dharma. So it's taken me a long time to align to what my Dharma is. And it's been a very confusing path for me, because it took me almost till probably 35 years old to realize that I'm a wounded healer. I wound, I transform, and then I heal and teach. Teaching and healing are very much aligned for me. And I go through cycles. This has been my path, right? So I go through some sort of transformation, and I have to move through it myself. And then I vulnerably teach people from my own experiences. It's been crazy. Like I'm like, and part of my Dharma too is that I grew up with a lot of shame, and shame doesn't want to teach vulnerably. Shame wants to stay hiding, right? So I've
Mhm.
always had this inner conflict of like, oh my God, do I actually have to do this? But it's funny because my ego has this perception of it like, why are you doing this? Why do you want to teach that? And I shame myself, but my soul always overrides that. And I always move back into teaching because it's just part of my Dharma. And so it's what I'm navigating right now, and why I'm feeling so stuck is because I don't have anything to teach, and I'm not ready to teach. So I'm in this real, it feels like pulling teeth, to create. And I've just pulled back. I've pulled back from my Instagram. I've pulled back from creating podcast episodes, and I basically have just been doing what I have to get by. But I feel like the tide's turning a bit, and I feel like I'm moving in the direction of coming back into inspiration to be able to create again. But yeah, what would you say is your Dharma? Like, what are some key themes of your Dharma?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I relate a lot to what you said. And for sure, I very much relate to the Dharma of suffering, going through things, and then sharing on the other side, or honestly during it, sometimes, a lot of times during it, what I'm learning, what I'm navigating, or just like the ways that I'm in it and I'm struggling. Like today I shared on my Instagram story, like what I told you, like I'm tired, I'm pissed that I didn't get the sleep that I wanted when I have so many things that I want to do. And I've always had this pull to share and to want to just bring light to normal experiences. Like I think that there is a lot of shame that we all hold, and we often think that we're alone
Mm-hmm.
in the things that we go through. And so I just find a lot of purpose in naming these things and sharing it and being like, hey, you might look at me and be like, oh, she's got her life together, but like these are the things that I struggle with. And I know that that helps others, because I'm always hearing, oh, you're making me feel seen. Oh, I thought I was the only person who felt this way. And so I know it just feels right in my soul. And I find that the times when I feel very out of alignment, or when I'm not when I'm not able to share, when I don't have words yet, it feels like physically uncomfortable, and I'm like feel stuck, because I'm like, oh, there is stuff that I want to come through, but it's not ready to be shared yet, and it's like literally out of alignment. And like in my experience, like I feel like I really stepped into my life's purpose, my Dharma, when I started my blog 4 years ago today, actually. Because which is crazy. Today's the anniversary, like how exciting.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, and it was crazy because like once I started that, I just felt this like unexplainable shift in my body that has never been the same. It opened my eyes and gave me this type of energy and inspiration and just like exuberance for life that I had never experienced until I was doing it. So it's really cool, but that doesn't mean that it's just all rainbows and sunshine, like, because like you, I do believe I have to go through these painful things and learn and glean the lessons from it, and then share with others. And it's not sharing out of like a I don't know, like, oh, I feel like I need to. It's just like it feels good to my soul to share with others, to help other people feel seen. And so yeah, but that doesn't it's hard sometimes, because like you and I have talked about personally, we're like, man, why do I have to go through this? Like this sucks. Like I'm tired. Like I don't want to feel this way. But it's like when I look like back at my life, like there are such clear things that have happened that have been like turning points that are now things that I teach others, but it freaking sucked to go through it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and it helps to look at it that way, like, okay, that there's a greater purpose here, but that still is hard to be in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. It's, everything you just shared was so related to it so much. And what stood out the most for me was this notion of people reaching out to you and saying they feel seen, they feel heard. That's our medicine. That's our
Hmm.
medicine. Like even yesterday when I reached out to you and I was like, I'm stuck. I'm feeling really flat, really low. I'm like, I don't want to talk about taking up space. Like, I don't feel like I'm in that energy. And when you reflected back to me that you were feeling similar, I was like, oh, it's like a breath of fresh
Mm.
air. Right. And I get the same reflections in my business is people are like, I get emails constantly and messages and people being like, I feel so seen and I feel so heard from your vulnerability and you sharing so openly. And I think that is our shared Dharma, I think,
Yes.
is that we are here to show people a different way of consciousness, a different way of being, a different way of doing, because, we are divergent, right?
Hmm.
And we're not like the mainstream, whether that's because we're empaths or because we're HSP or because we're from a different star system, whatever that might be, right? Like we're different. And I think that we have a really beautiful medicine to offer people, which is trying something different, authentic relating, embodying a different energy. And I think that's what I'm here to do. And I say, like, one of my greatest dharmic paths is elevating the consciousness of humanity, and providing different perspectives, showing people how to lead with empathy, how to lead with love, how to lead with curiosity, as opposed to hatred and judgment and fear and these sorts of things. And I think that's a big part of what we do, by just simply sharing our story and sharing our process, and being the embodiment of our transformation
Mm.
is powerful enough to transform others, right? And if you look at like, let's say, you're in the presence of the Dalai Lama and you feel this presence, this beautiful energy radiating from this being, that's transformative, right? That's why it's like powerful when you see people crying and falling to their knees when they're around like Elvis, or these big, hot,
Mm-hmm.
big energy, the Pope, or these sorts of things. I think that's what it's like. It's like you're feeling a different energy, you're feeling a different consciousness, and that is transformative. So it's very purposeful. And I think I shame myself a lot, because I'm like, why do I have this desire to just get on camera and just talk about my life? And it can seem like, to the outside eye, it can almost appear like very narcissistic or egotistical, but it's not that, right? It's like, part of me doesn't even want to do this, but part of me just knows that this is what I'm here to do. So I just do it, right? It's like, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so much of this, like, one thing I have to say just with the energy piece, is that, like, literally as soon as we got on the Zoom call together, I just feel like calm and grounded. Like, I've just like it, because I know I'm in the presence of someone else who like really gets me and gets where I'm at. And it just like feels good. So it's like I'm like soaking that in right now, because I just need it so much. Because when you're in it and you're just feeling like, oh my gosh, like things just feel like crazy and crappy and rough, like you just feel alone. And so I'm like soaking that in, and it's like, oh, like this is what I can have the ability to do that for others. Just, I don't know, being reminded of that is powerful.
Yeah,
Um,
beautiful.
yeah. And the other thing that I don't have answer to, and I'm curious if you can relate or whatever, being in transition where, like, because again it's like our dharma is to like share, okay, these are the things that I'm going through and navigating. And for me, like, I've just been going through such a transformation, becoming a mother, and also a huge part of my personal growth and expansion has been being a business owner.
Mhm.
But I'm struggling with how I can go from what I once was and what people are used to me talking about and sharing about, and how can I like go into this next phase of things that I want to share about, because there's always that people pleaser wound that I'm always working at, where it's like, oh, I don't want to like lose people. I don't want to alienate people. And like the fact
Yeah.
is, like, there are some people who have left. They have like stopped following me on Instagram or whatever, like things like that, where it like it manifests. And so it's like hits on those insecurities. So that's something I've been grappling with, and I actually shared it on my podcast a couple weeks ago. I'm like, I'm feeling this, and it's really, really hard, because it's like I know that my path is to be incongruent with what I'm navigating, but then there's also that like practical side of like
Mhm.
wanting to be relatable and also to feel accepted by other people. You know what I mean? So that's kind
Yeah.
of where I've been at, and I'm like, oh, this is like really uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, I relate. I've been down the path when I was doing fitness, and I did
Mm.
that for 5 years. I had a very strong following. Actually, most of my following on my Instagram comes from that. So I have like quite a few like ghost followers, like people that have followed me before, and now the algorithm doesn't show them what I'm about now because they're not in alignment to that. So it's really interesting. And I had that same thing. So I lost a lot of following, a lot of people. But what I really admire about you is that or at least how I perceive it, is that you're following, you're looking at what's coming in, right? Like, you have this new business venture, you're wanting to like support, people that are wanting to develop businesses, highly sensitive people that are wanting to develop business, and you're probably attracting people that are vibrating in the same energy as you, right? And the cool thing about that, when who you're working with starts to shift and you adapt to that, it means you're honoring your authentic path,
Mm.
That's all you need. That's all you need to know. It's just like, cool, I'm honoring my authentic path, and the people that aren't meant to walk this path with me any longer, they'll divert, right? And they'll
Yes.
go to whatever is the next thing that they're meant to follow. But so what I've learned to do is just focus on the people that have their eyes peeled to me in the state that I'm showing up in. It means that, that I'm being authentic and they're resonating with my current message. But I do also want to honor the party that feels like, that discomfort of people not following you anymore and unsubscribing from whatever, channels that you have. And it's all part of the process. And but it brings up the feels, right? Of like, am I doing this right? And that self-doubt creeps in. Like, I bet you everybody that's walking their Dharma, at some point, starts to question, like, is this actually where I'm supposed to be at? And another thing I admire about you is the courage that you have to pivot, right? Like closing down your membership. That's a big deal. That's income. That's people that were probably disappointed by your decision. That's a big, big decision to make. And I think, but at the end of the day, an entrepreneur who's aligned to her mission and her vision will be powerful, right? And
Mm.
one that's not won't be as powerful because the message isn't going to be as resonant. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for saying that. That super resonates. And it kind of like had me thinking, like, again, it's just like all related to that Dharma. Like, we're here to like walk our path to like kind of show others what's possible and navigate it sometimes imperfectly and talk about it along the way. It's like,
Yeah.
of course, it's going to be uncomfortable sometimes, but it's always permission giving to others when we can be like, hey, this is how I'm feeling, this is what I'm doing, and like I'm not navigating it always amazingly, but here I am anyway, like standing up through it. So yeah, I appreciate that because it just brings up a lot. And I think being like us sharing in a public way, it's like a unique experience. And I
Mhm.
think there's like it's like you feel like you have like a magnifying glass, or like we're just like thinking about things that other people might not think about as much. And so it's like just giving voice to that sometimes, like, hey, it's like not easy all the time. Like this is
Yeah.
not an easy dharma necessarily. I don't know if anyone has an easy one though, but
Yeah, some people probably, right? Like you look at people that came into their soul chose this life and they chose a simple path. They didn't have karma, right? We
oh,
walk our dharma to correct our karma, right? And karma is like the patterns or the things we played out in past lives that we need to learn lessons through. So we chose this dharma to learn very specific lessons. And I know for me, it's like one of them was to learn how to love myself, in spite of what others think of me, just to fully be an embodied self-loving being without needing external influence, external validation, these sorts of things. And it's really interesting because that's one of the things that I've been really working on is the intention behind my creations. And I've been looking at it through the lens of like, I create, or I want to create because I want people to appreciate me. I want to be validated. And there's nothing wrong with that. But
mhm.
there has to be a balance between internal and external validation. If you're only creating for your audience and you're not creating for the joy of creation or the inspiration of creation, then it becomes imbalanced. And that's what I'm correcting. That karma is what I'm kind of clearing right now, because I want to create from a place of alignment and what feels good, and if a million people view it or one person views it, that it won't really matter to me. That's what I'm really trying my best to work towards. And I don't know if that'll ever be possible, but at least that's the target I'm aiming for. Um, yeah. I want to just maybe like, is there anything that that you can share with the audience around like, because I know there's probably a lot of people listening that they don't know what their dharma is. They don't know what their soul purpose is. And there's probably a lot of people floundering and
Mm.
stuck, and I think COVID also wreaked havoc on people's life and, threw people for a major loop. And so like, because you're also probably doing that right now in your
Mhm.
sensitive and soulful business membership stuff, is that you're showing people how to fully align to their business
Yeah.
path. So do you have any advice for people? Like what would stand out for you?
Totally. I mean, for me, it's always like something I always tell people is like to follow your curiosity, like the things that you're just like curious about that you're sitting and thinking about. Like for me, I was always spending my time like just like researching things about like mental health and psychology and why are we the way that we are. Like I was just always interested in how humans work. And that's like kind of where I started out with my blog was like just talking about mental health and how we could start to feel better. And the other intersection I find so it's like something things you're curious about, um, things that you might have liked to spend your time doing as a child. Like for me, I would write books, I would just draw and write. Interestingly enough, that's what I'm doing as an adult. Like I didn't veer, I veered off that path for a long time, but I came right back to it.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think is just like the pain, like what has hurt you in your life? What has like shaped you? What has like what broke your heart? Like that's always kind of the thing. Like I just feel like there's usually something there that is like the piece that's like your medicine to share with people. So I feel like it's yeah, like your curiosity, um, what you were into as a child, where the pain lies because like, if you're like just kind of like bland about it, like, oh, I got to find a need and then solve the problem, like it's just going to be this like empty business that you're starting that you don't really care about versus like your dharma is like you're going to feel it in your soul. And honestly, I think it's a lot of trial and error. Or I don't even want to say error, it's just trial. Like you just try things and try things. I think sometimes we feel like we have to think our way there, like, oh, I just need to meditate on it. And then I'm going to find my Dharma or I'm going to like journal on it. And I find that it's actually, and at least in my experience, it has been taking little action steps, following that curiosity and just seeing what happens. Because that's when you start to like, you feel the energy in your body, you start to feel things shift, you feel this excitement that you've never experienced before, or you get that feedback for the first time from someone who's like, oh my gosh, this like was so validating, and it just kind of gives you more clues and breadcrumbs. At least that's how I found how I got to this place. Like I wouldn't have known 4 years ago that I was going to start this and talk to highly sensitive people, but wouldn't you have it that my sensitivity was the cause of like the most pain I had experienced in my life. So of course that's what I'm now helping other people with because I understand that pain and now I get to use my creativity, my writing skills, and my ability to relate to others to now help. So yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
about for you? What are your thoughts?
Well, similar to what you said, but I want to answer it from more of a feminine perspective,
Mm,
more of a yin energy, and that's the allowing energy. And I want to just really affirm people that it's okay to feel stuck and that we can't force ourselves into alignment to something that we're not ready to come into alignment with. And that's why I'm a proponent of procrastination. I believe it's our system's way of waiting until we're in alignment to take action. Not in all cases, but in
right.
in some cases, I would say that's true. So don't beat yourself up because that's not going to help you get quicker to your dharma or get you aligned to a path. And I believe that part of dharma is like we get on the path and then we get to a certain point and then we have to pivot, but sometimes we get stuck, we get afraid to pivot, and we're like, and then that's when our dharma path kind of gets stagnant and we're like, shit, I don't know what to do, right? And that's part of my journey has been constantly like that. And it's okay to stop and start, and when you're in your stop phase, just chill, like practice, like you said, lead with curiosity, try new things, be like a scientist in your life, and practice experiments and see what comes from it. But putting pressure on yourself to find your path and get there, and that's hustle culture, right? That's what we're moving away from as a collective society. I really believe that. And there's a new paradigm, and it's not about hustle. We're not coming at this anymore. Marketing isn't coming from this inauthentic place anymore. Like everything is about authenticity and moving towards things and just being real, right? So if you're resonating with that, stop shaming yourself, stop feeling guilty for not knowing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, because in that inaction sometimes is where we find the spark to move to
Mhm.
move to move towards action, right? And that's inspiration. Like we can't always be in states of inspiration, and it does ebb and flow, no different than confidence ebbs and
Yes.
flows, right? So that's what I'm learning right now. I'm really learning how to just be gentle with myself. I know that it's going to come, and suddenly you're going to see like, holy shit, Matt's posting so much and all this content, where's it all coming from? Right? I'm ready. I'm getting ready. I'm dormant right now, but it's coming. So I'm just trying to be gentle with myself as it returns back. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I wrote down I never take notes when we talk, but like two things I wanted to remember. One was cycles, because you
Yeah.
talked about this at the beginning too, where you'll have those times where you're just creating so much content and then all of a sudden it's like quiet, and it's can be so uncomfortable in that more introspective period, because we live in a world that does like really glorify like keep going, keep going, keep going, and it's like as if we're just expected to always have this constant upward momentum in every aspect of our lives. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
actually insane. And it's like, so then when we're in those slower cycles, it feels like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? What's wrong with me? Have I lost momentum? Am I never going to get my inspiration back? It's like this scary feeling. And I've been in that as well lately too. And it's that stuck feeling. And it's like, and you just so badly want to be out of it. But it's like, it's normal, it's natural. Like we have to be in that in order to recalibrate and to kind of step into whatever is next, and you can't force it. And
Yeah.
the other word I wrote down was timing, because we want things to be on our timeline. We want it to happen fast because it's uncomfortable when we don't know what's next and what does that look like. And it's like something I have had to remind myself of a lot, especially now in this season of life, is like I trust that the timing that this is unfolding is perfect for me. Like
Mm-hmm.
I wish so much that I had more days to work, but I don't. And so I trust that this is how my timeline is meant to be for a reason. I'm meant to have this amount of energy and this amount of time to keep walking my purpose and to keep doing my life's work. Like I don't need to get there a moment quicker. And it's just, it can be really hard to accept that, but I'm really working at acceptance and like surrendering, even though it's so uncomfortable. But like that's
Mm-hmm.
the point. It's like, okay, we have to surrender. Like there's so many lessons in this. And like, I don't know, the other day, like you were saying something about like putting pressure on ourselves and like forcing ourselves, and like the other day, like I did have a work day and I was like, I'm just tired. I'm just gonna go for a walk. And like, wouldn't you know, I had so much inspiration come through that I wouldn't have had if I had just like powered through and been so like meticulous to my to-do list. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's a lot. It's so hard, but
Yeah.
you're so right on all this.
Yeah. Yeah, you said something, and I thought that's where you were taking this thought, which is interesting that you didn't, but you even said the word seasons. And I was like, I'm wondering if she's going to take that there, but you didn't, so I'll take it there. Um, if you look at nature, we are nature. Nature is us, right? We are the embodiment of nature. And the seasons are a perfect example of that, right? It's not always going to be winter. It's not always going to be summer. The seasons are turning and changing constantly, right? The sun, same thing. The sun isn't always burning in this part of the hemisphere. It moves to the other side, right? So night and day. We need that balance. And I think that's the trust. That's the trust. And I think we have that same duality in us. We have this soul, we have this ego, and the soul will interpret dharma differently than the ego will, right? Because they perceive differently. One perceives through the lens of doing, one perceives through the lens of being. The ego wants to do more, do more, do more. The ego doesn't like to surrender because it has to do more to feel worthy, right? So we need that refuge. So maybe that's my tip, because I was like, maybe there's got to be a tip that's going to come through for you guys around how to connect to your soul purpose. You know, listen to your heart, listen to your body. What makes you feel lit up, right? And if that's like something that your ego judges, like, oh, that's not good enough, I wouldn't make enough money doing that or whatever, I really want to encourage people to listen to the sound of your heart singing, because that is what's going to lead you to more prosperity, more abundance, more like joy, Whereas, I know a lot of people, and I actually work with quite a few people that fell for the ego trap of their purpose, which was their parents wanted them to become a doctor or a lawyer or a judge or whatever, and they did, and now they're not happy. So they come to me as a life coach that works with authenticity, and they are trying to find out who they are, what's their authentic soul purpose, and what do they want to do. And that's the medicine here, I think. And that's what you were talking about, is like, take some time, go for a walk, slow down, get out of the hustle, and you'll be spoken to, right? Your soul's always communicating to you, and you just have to take time and listen. And I think that's some really good advice that I got from some of my teachers around, really getting clear about what it is that I'm meant to be doing on this earth, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's this like question I ask myself all the time that just came through to share here, is like, what if this doesn't need to be a problem? So it's like that feeling of stuckness, that feeling of, I don't have inspiration, I don't know what to do next. Like that overwhelming feeling. I keep anchoring back into, what if this doesn't need to be a problem? Because sometimes I think it's something that needs to be solved. I need to like force myself into action. I need to force myself to figure it out and get clarity. And it's like, what if this isn't a problem? It's just the cycle you're in. And like, actually the best thing is just lean into it. Like, just trust, like, it's going to be okay. Like, over and over, I ask myself that, because it's like natural to want a solution, where a problem, like, here's a problem, I need to fix it, I need to fix it, I need to fix it. And it's like, maybe the solution is not trying to fix anything and just leaning into it. And like, the light will come. There's going to be clarity again, but right now, like, you can't force yourself through it as much as you want to.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just something that came through. I feel like this conversation is like helping just so much, like, personally, where I've
Yeah.
been at. So
Yeah, that's what I really value about this. And I like the kind of this structure that we're going to start operating with. And, I even thinking like, what are we going to name this? And it can be that, like, how to get aligned to your soul purpose or your Dharma, like,
mhm.
because it's really, you know, yeah, it's really cool. And it's also so magical. Like, it reminds me of the story of us meeting. And like, um, I can't remember. I can't even remember how we got connected initially, but I saw your channel, and I think I started following you, and then I messaged you, and I went to one of your workshops with Ben, and
Mhm.
I just knew, I could feel it. I'm like, she has a very similar life path to
Yeah.
me, and like, just that resonance was so powerful. So the beauty of like being really aligned to your soul purpose is you also attract people into your sphere that are aligned to your soul purpose, right? It's different than like, oh, I'm going to be a lawyer and I'm going to be governed by my ego's purpose. You're going to attract everybody else that's aligned to your ego, and that's
Yeah.
unhelpful, right? So the more we get into resonance with our soul, the more we're going to attract these beautiful connections. And I just absolutely adore our connection. It's like, it's almost
Mhm.
like freaky. I'm like, we're always on the same
Every time.
wavelength, like, it's
Oh,
really cool. So
I know, we have to remember that anytime that we're like feeling like sad, in between, we're like, let's just check out the WhatsApp
right. Yeah.
chat and just see how each other is feeling, because we're
Yeah.
probably the same. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that was such a beautiful point, and it kind of just it just was making me think of too the times where you are kind of stepping into your own lane and following your passion and following your heart, and you do feel lonely, and you do feel like, oh, I'm scared I'm going to lose people. Like
Hmm.
you said, it's like, when you're in alignment, like, you're going to attract in the people who are right for you, who are in alignment with you. And is- if that number is less, if some people fall away, like, trusting it's okay, because you're going to find the people that really nourish you in such a deep and meaningful way, in a way that it doesn't matter how many people there are. It matters more about just like the quality and the depth of that type of
Hmm.
connection that you open yourself up to. And I've really found that. And so that's just such a good reminder, when it's easy to get caught up in, oh no, what if people don't understand me? It's like, it'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I want to leave the audience with just like something. I think the correct content I'm going to start creating, when I do start creating, is going to be around safety, finding an internal sense of safety and managing fear, because I think that's what really prevents people from connecting to their soul purpose, is like the fear of like, what if I'm not enough? What if I'm not doing enough? But every morning I lay in bed. I always set my alarm clock for 2 hours before my first commitment of the day. And
Mm.
the first 30 minutes of waking up is all I spend time with my body. So I connect with my chakras, I talk to my body, and I just really establish a really grounded, present connection with myself. And so I've been using three, like a lot of them is like I go with each chakra and I say, I am safe to whatever. So three that I think I want to leave you guys with is I am safe to be flexible. I am safe to be present, and I am safe to be scared. Which
Mm.
sounds paradoxical, but it's when you give yourself permission to be scared, you don't employ all of these defense mechanisms to try and not feel it. You just go straight for it and you're like, I'm safe to be scared right now. It's okay to be scared. So those three are really powerful. And try them and just try being with those and affirm your body that it's okay to move towards the unknown and that you can be flexible as you move towards the unknown. You can be present and you can be completely fucking terrified and still be able to move towards the unknown, right? I think so. That's what I wanted to leave the audience with.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. I'm so glad you said that because being able to show yourself, I can be safe through this. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's like something I've had to think about is like I have overcome every hardship, everything I've experienced, I've come out the other side. And just to remind people listening, like you have survived 100% of the things that have happened to you. Like it might feel scary. Like I'm safe to feel scared. I love that. I'm going to take that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just such an important reminder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad it resonated. Um, any closing thoughts, comments?
I feel pretty complete. I feel like this was just it's beautiful how like you just kind of follow the flow and what can come through is really amazing. So I loved this. And I just want
Yeah.
to send love to everyone listening, and especially if you're in that period of time where you're feeling stuck and unseen and scared and uncertain, like you're not alone, clearly. Like we
Mm-hmm.
navigate this too. We're in it. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I share those same sentiments, and I look forward to our next creation. And I really like this system. It feels like I feel like I can just breathe and there's so much
Same.
space. I can say what I need to say. Like it's not prescriptive. And I think that
Yeah.
this, I think we're onto something here. I think this is
Me
really, really
too.
good. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Agreed.
All right. Well, thanks
Thank
everybody
you.
for tuning in, and thanks Alissa for sharing this time with me. And yeah, we'll see you in a month, everybody.
See you in a month.
Bye.